Now that we've learned how to program MIDI and we've got some clips recorded into our session, we're going to take them and finally switch over to the other side of the software, which is Arrangement View. And these ideas now are going to live inside of a timeline, which has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So currently what we have are just a lot of ideas which need to be arranged into a shareable and listenable form. I think of Session View as the more left side part of my brain, where I get to be creative and just go wherever my ears take me. And conversely, I see Arrangement View as the more technical and organizational side of making music with a computer. I hope that this analogy helps you wrap your head around this concept and what we're about to do a little bit better. Session View is something that is really unique and special to Ableton Live, and it's something that sets it apart from other traditional digital audio workstations. So, that being said, it's also something that tends to confuse people when they've never seen it before, which is why I wanted to start there. Again, I'm going to be showing two very distinct ways to get your ideas into the timeline. One which will be almost like performing it in, and the other which is going to be more technical and will consist of copying and pasting. At this point, I'd like to bring your attention back to a section of Live's interface that I sort of breezed over in the first video, and that's the transport up here right at the top. So throughout the creative process, we've been freely starting, stopping, and recording things into clips without having to be constrained to a timeline. But now that we're ready to lay things into an arrangement, we'll be using the transport commands to accomplish this. I like to think of the transport as being the start, stop, and record commands, which really only apply to the timeline in the arrangement view. So now that we've got a bunch of clips happening and we're ready to do this, there are a few things that we need to do to prepare the session for recording into a timeline. So first of all, we're going to save the session. And next, we're going to stop all the clips so that when we launch something, we're not hearing what we were previously launching, but we're hearing what we do want to launch. So you can see here I've got 4 clips that were playing last time I had playback running, and now I'm going to click the Stop All Clips button, which is this square located in the master. On the top of the transport of Live's interface, we're also going to press the stop icon here, which is going to bring the session back to measure 1, beat 1, note 1. And you'll see that number reflected here at the left of the transport. This is going to bring the cursor back to the beginning of the timeline. So now I'm going to press Tab to flip back into Arrangement View. And now I'm going to press Record on the transport. You'll see everything turns red and the metronome is rolling and the cursor is running along the timeline. So I'm going to be pressing Tab a lot, going back and forth between the two sections, views. And I'm launching scene 1 here. Pressing Tab again, we can see that the drum MIDI is being laid in up top here, and here's the bass sound. Flipping back, now I'm going to launch the verse. Flipping back again. You can see Live is recording our every move. Here's the chorus. Now we've got all 5 clips running. And I'm going to launch the intro one last time. I'm going to stop this drum clip here. And I'm going to press spacebar to stop playback. So inside of the timeline, we're looking at MIDI clips that are currently grayed out. Towards the top right of the timeline, you're going to see the Back to Arrangement button. It's an orange button with a triangle and some small lines in it. So by clicking it, first of all, it's going to disappear, which is a little confusing at first. But more importantly, its function is to allow us to listen specifically to what's happening in the arrangement. So if I was going to go back to Session View and start launching some clips, Live's going to allow us to launch whatever we want at any given time. And if I go back to Arrangement here, you can see that it's just kind of ignoring what's happening and letting me be creative in whatever section of Live that I want to be in at any given time. And then when I'm ready to go back to the arrangement, I would simply click the Back to Arrangement button again, and then we're seeing everything without the gray veil covering it. So at this point, I'm just going to minimize some of these windows and get as much space of the timeline as I can. I'm going to zoom in a little and then scroll over so we're looking at everything a little bit clearer. So at this point, we can do a lot of editing. Similar to editing MIDI, I can grab something, I can pull it around, I can drag it, I can extend it, I can copy it, I can paste it. And the other way to get the clips in here outside of playing them is to drop them in, similar to the way we did with the MIDI drum programming. So let's say I want to grab this grand piano part. I'm clicking and holding and pressing tab, and then I'm just placing it wherever I want to. I'm going to let go now, and it's going to live right there. So the process of clicking and dragging and dropping things into the arrangement might make more sense to certain people. And again, both ways are really very valid. Once the initial arrangement is in place, it's time for us to export everything into a shareable audio file. So again, inside of the timeline here, I'm just going to select an area that's at the end of the composition, and I'm going to highlight back to wherever I want the song to start. So I like to think about this as highlighting text. Whichever section you highlight and copy is the exact section which is going to be pasted, and in this instance, exported. So once we have the desired section highlighted in the timeline, we're going to go up to File and choose Export Audio Video from the drop-down menu that appears. And then here we've got the export pop-up window. So you can get really specific, and if you know what you're doing, go forth and export to your own specifications. But if you don't know, I want you to always render from the master. You can select either an AIFF or a WAV file, 44:1 sample rate, 16-bit depth, no dither. And then everything else is just going to remain off. You're going to click Export. At this point, you'll be asked to give the file a new name and also choose where you want to place it. So in order to upload to Blend properly, you need to name this file Preview and save it inside of the project folder. So I've got Preview written in and Assignment 1 Project, which is the project folder. So I'm going to press Save. Live's going to launch into action here. I'm going to minimize Live for a moment and look again at the project folder. If I open it, here you can find the preview that we just exported.